So welcome back, students. Today we are going to do a chapter of biology, that is tissues. Here we'll talk about the plant tissues and how different kinds of tissues are there. Okay, so let's dive into the session talking about meristematic tissues. So meristematic tissues means that something which keeps on dividing. Okay, so specifically if about meristematic tissues, the cells of meristematic tissues. Sorry, this will be, let me just erase this one. Tissues grows, you can say, or you can say actively divide. Okay, so let me just erase cells of meristematic tissues divides or divide actively. What do we mean by that? That means one cell divides into two, and then two cell divides into again, further two cells. So what happens? Each cell is not gaining a certain role. Okay, it's not taking a certain role. It's just dividing and keeps on dividing again and again and again. Okay, so that is what happens here, and it is responsible for the growth. So meristematic tissues are found in growing region wherever the plant is supposed to grow from the roots. Like for example, this is a plant, right? So on the tips or on the the upper portion, this portion, or maybe the roots, this area. So in these areas wherever there is a need of growth, or from the area where the plant grows, these tissues are present, and they are small and they divide actively. The cells of these tissue actively divide. That means they do not take up a role of, like for example, one cell is not taking a role of transporting or conducting water or food. It just stays a normal undifferentiated cell and keeps on dividing again and again. The cells here have thin cell wall. It has very dense cytoplasm. So you can imagine a very thin cell, wall is there, and cytoplasm is very, very dense. Okay. And the nucleus here would be large. Okay. So let me just maybe draw a nucleus, a large nucleus, and vacuole would be less, because there is no need of food, because the cell will be dividing again and again, it keeps on dividing. So the less number of cell organelles, the less organelles needed to be divided or replicated. Okay, so that's why duplicated basically. So that's why no vacuoles or a little vacuoles or less vacuole is there. Okay, so this is meristematic tissue. Now there are three types. The apical meristematic is present on the tip of root and shoot. So suppose this is a plant, okay, and here these are the, okay, let me just take a color which would be more suitable for plants. Okay, so green color. So this is the tip. Okay, now what happens is, okay, now let me just draw root as well, and then we'll talk more. Okay, so this is root. So apical means the apex, okay, on the top or the tip. Okay, so on the tip of root, you will see these meristems present. Okay, so here on the tip and here on the tip of the root, apical meristem is there. The meristems which are present on the sides of this stem, that means you can say this side, okay, these sides. Okay, if this hand is a stem, so on this and this side, the meristems which are present are known as lateral meristems, because it is present laterally, okay, on the stems and root also. If you will zoom the root, no, so if root looks like this, let's say, so on the sides of it would be lateral meristem. This meristem will be there. Okay, and intercalary meristem would be, so you might have seen nodes on stem like this. So on the nodes or at the nodes and also in between the nodes. So space between two nodes would be internode. Internode. Okay, so intercalary meristem is present between the nodes and the internodes as well. Okay. So I hope meristematic tissues are clear. So apical meristem, I have already told you, right? That apical meristem is, just a second. whatever image I draw, or okay, just consider those, because these are just, imaginary things or AI made. So we don't have to go through that. Okay. Now again, I'm explaining you the apical meristem. So if this is a plant and these are the roots, so apical meristem will be present on the tips, this and this area. If there is, suppose a branch is here, something like this, so it will be present here. Okay. Now its function is to increase in length, okay, to change basically the length of the plant, and also for primary growth. The primary growth is basically the main growth or the initial growth which you will see. Okay, so this is about the apical meristem. Now if we talk about lateral meristem, so when you will look at if we zoom, you can say a stem, okay, and here the leaves are there, or maybe branches are there. Okay, one branch is here, again leaves are here, like this. If we zoom it, so we will see that lateral meristem is present in the sides here, in this area and this area. And what it will help in doing is basically, first of all, it is present in stem and root, just like apical meristem, but on the lateral side, not on the tip, but on the sides, sidewise. Okay, it helps in producing bark. Okay, bark is this woody covering of a tree, and also helps in producing xylem and phloem. So it makes the conducting vascular parts of the plant, from which water and food will be conducted to different parts of the plant. Okay, so in these things, lateral meristem is helpful. The lateral meristem which makes bark is called as stalk cambium. Okay, and the meristem which is responsible for producing xylem and phloem, uh, are considered to be as vascular cambium. Okay, right? Now, intercalary meristems. So again, to talk about intercalary meristems, let's just say that if the plant is like this, the stem is like this, it has nodes, right? Like this. You might have seen sugar cane, no? So in that, you maybe see it very visible. Okay, it will be very prominent there. Okay, so here at the base of the leaf, that means at this point. Okay, at nodes, that means at this point, and internodes, that means in between two nodes. In these areas, you will see intercalary meristem. Again, the cell will divide into 2 and 2 into 4, like that, right? So here it is present. Helps in regenerate parts after grazing or cutting. So if you cut, this part, again it will germinate, because the intercalary meristem, here apical meristem is already cut off, right? Broken. That's why intercalary meristem will help the plant to grow. That's why whenever you mow the lawn, okay, or if you cut the grasses, you pluck it, but not with the roots. Okay, so what happens is, again, these grasses will grow because they have intercalary meristem present in them. Okay, so this is about it. Now, if we talk about the permanent, tissues, what happens if actively divide meristems? They mature and they differentiate. Okay, students usually get confused between what exactly differentiate means. So let me just tell you, differentiation is just nothing but taking up a job, you can say, or role, you can say. So for example, you are a student, your every friends are also students only, right? So everybody's student, so they do not have taken a specific job. They can grow and become into a doctor, or engineer, painter, dancer, singer, right? Anything they would like to. So then after that, they cannot switch. I mean, they can, but let's talk on a general basis. So they won't be switching their jobs here and there all the time, right? So similarly, the tissues which are not differentiated are meristematic tissues. But those who are differentiated, they have become mature enough, like you will become mature enough to take a specialization or take a job or role. And then you will have a permanent role to do singing, or become a doctor, or any career which you would choose. So similarly, whatever path these cells will choose or differentiate into, they will become specialized in permanent tissue, and they will perform a particular function. Okay, Now, simple permanent tissue is made, there are basically two types of permanent tissue again. Okay. So the first is simple permanent tissue. That means they are going to perform one particular function, but they are made up of same kind of tissues. Okay. But complex permanent tissues are, one kind of cells. Okay. But complex permanent tissues are made up of different kinds of cell and they perform one function. So suppose conduction of water can have different kinds of cells involved together to conduct water. But there are different types of cells, not only one type of cell. So maybe 3 to 4 types of cells are involved. So that's why it becomes complex, and simple ones are only having one kind of cell. I hope you're getting it. If you're not, you can ask your doubts in the comments, okay? Right. Now coming to simple permanent tissue. So there are again types to it. One second. So there is parenchyma. Now parenchyma are very thin walled cells like this. They are loosely arranged. They have, intercellular spaces. This spaces between them. Right, these spaces between them, they are loosely arranged and they have large central vacuole. That means if we take one cell, so the vacuole will be very, very big and nucleus will be very small. Okay, intercellular spaces are there, like I told you, and least specialized tissue. That means they are not specialized to any function. They can perform n number of functions or a lot of functions. Wherever the requirement will be, these parenchyma cells can be there and help in other cells performing the function. Okay, what all things parenchyma cells can do? It can store food because these are very loosely packed cells. Okay, and they have large vacuole. So in that vacuole, they can store food, right? Vacuole. Okay, so they can store food. Then if we talk about, one second, let me just erase, this is not correct. Okay, the spelling, it should be okay, let me correct it. Okay, just a second. vacuole. Okay, right? Okay, let me just, yeah. Now coming to photosynthesis also can be done by when the chloroplasts are there. So parenchyma is also chloroplast, it contains chloroplasts as well. Okay, and also helps in healing and regenerating the damaged parts. So they are very thin cell walls they have, and they can easily be present at the part of healing and help in healing. Okay, so these are the functions you can say of a parenchyma, which is a simple permanent tissue. The second type of simple permanent tissue would be collenchyma. Collenchyma are the living cells with unevenly thickened wall. So what happens? Collenchyma cells look somewhat like this, hexagonal in structure or something like this. Okay, and the cell wall is thickened at the corner. So it is something like at corners. Why? Because there is deposition of cellulose. Cellulose is a carbohydrate. Okay, so deposition carbohydrate, carbs. Okay, cellulose is made up of glucose. So glucose deposition, you can say complex glucose deposition, or simply just say cellulose. That is actually the true term or correct term. Okay, is there, and usually they are compactly arranged. Okay, so they are arranged in a manner that there is less to no intercellular spaces. Okay, so this is how they are arranged. Okay, right? Now, the function would be they provide flexibility to the plant, even though they are providing support because there is no intercellular spaces, but yet they are very flexible in nature. Okay, so because of that, there will be support to the plant. So it can bend. Okay, it will be having flexibility for bending. The plants can bend a little bit, the stems and all, right? But without breaking. It won't be so rigid that it will break into two pieces. No. So this is all the function of a collenchyma is. Now, last is sclerenchyma under simple permanent tissues. So these are the dead cells. Okay, dead cells are basically they are very thick. Okay, and they are very lignified. That means lignin is present on the outer side of the cell. Okay, and no protoplasm when mature. So they do not have this protoplasm or whatsoever inside, and they are very rigid. Okay, so they provide strength. These cells provide basically, or these tissues provide strength to the plant, mechanical support, and also protects the inner, tissues or the softer tissues which are present inside the plant. So that is their function. That's why they are dead. Okay, they don't contain much of the cell organelles or whatever, but they are rigid in structure. That's how they provide strength. Okay, I hope you're getting it. Right. Now, if we talk about complex, permanent tissue, so there is xylem and phloem. Only two types of complex permanent tissue. So under tissues, again, let me just, give an overview. So we have talked about meristematic tissue, right? Meristematic, sorry, tissues. Okay. In this, we have talked about apical and intercalary, and also lateral, right? Now, under, this simple permanent, under permanent tissue, okay? Permanent tissue, you will get two types. That would be simple and complex, okay? Then again, simple is of three types, okay? And complex is of two types. Complex is xylem and phloem, right? Xylem and phloem. And simple is parenchyma, collenchyma, and sclerenchyma, right? So this, chart will give you a better idea. That's why I explained it to you here. And again, let's come back to xylem now. So xylem, it transports or conducts water and mineral coming from the root to leaves or different parts of the plant, every part, okay? And it has four, you can say, not exactly types. You will say that it has four components to it, okay? Or four parts to it. Tracheids, which are long and tapered cell with thick cell wall, okay? So thick walls like that. Then vessels, tube-like structure formed by dead cells. So they are something like this. Then xylem fiber that provides the mechanical support, and also xylem parenchyma helps in storing the food and lateral conduction. Here in phloem, you will see different parts. So xylem fiber is common. Okay, not xylem fiber. Fiber is common and parenchyma is common. Okay. Now here two different parts are there. The first is sieve tubes, which conduct the food. Okay, living cells without any nucleus, which helps in the conduction of the food. And the second one is companion cells, which regulates the sieve tube function, helps in the the transportation of the food. So again, in depth, we'll study that how all these, four components of for xylem and the other four for phloem works in together, to make this complex permanent tissue, and, helps the conduction of food and water. Okay, so this is a comparison chart. Maybe you can compare here and remember different, structure. So this you can take a screenshot of it, and this in depth we will discuss in a regular class. Okay. Right. So we have talked about meristematic tissue, simple permanent tissue, and complex permanent tissue. Then we have talked about, under meristematic tissue, apical, lateral, intercalary. We know that parenchyma is, for storage, collenchyma is for flexibility, and sclerenchyma is to provide strength and protect the different soft tissues inside the plant. Okay. And complex permanent tissue is for the conduction purposes only. Now you can try these questions. Name three types of meristematic tissues. So try answering it in the comment box, okay? And which simple tissue provides flexibility? We have just discussed right now. And which complex tissue conducts food? And last but not the least is, I have given you hints also. So just try figuring that out with a hint as well. And what is the main function of sclerenchyma? So you can go back to previous slide as well. Go back to, back to the video and go to the slide, particular slide, and then try answering those. Okay, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the session, and let's join for another session and try completing this topic. Okay, if you have any doubt, try contacting me on my Urban Pro profile. Okay, thank you so much. Bye-bye. Take care.